I'm pleased to be joined by Tobias Baker, who's getting ready to fight in the main event against John Simon here on November the 16th for Pure Combat Battle of the Brave. Tobias, how are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. Just got done with training, actually. Just literally stepped off the mats.
Nice. Well, I appreciate the time. Happy Halloween. Are you doing anything tonight? Gonna go out and have any fun, or just low key mind focused on the upcoming fight?
Oh man, I'm as focused as I ever can be. I actually work the night shift, so I'll be heading to work while everyone's going out. So it'll be fun.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. You're a man that has his eyes on the prize. Yeah, I was gonna try and go out and have a little fun tonight, but my girlfriend told me I got to be an adult and stay in. So I'm gonna listen to her
Oh,
and take her advice. Let's talk a little bit about this camp. The fight is right around the corner. And again, main event. You're fighting a high profile guy. His brother's in the UFC, as everyone knows. How has this camp been so far? How are you feeling?
this camp has been great. It's been a little shorter than some of the other camps that I've had. So that has its own challenges. Um, but all in all, I feel great. Once I got back into training, knocking the rust off only took a little bit of time. I think every fighter has that where they're getting their timing back and everything's starting to click right. You really feel like your technique's flowing and you're getting in sync with your training partners and the flow is really good.
That's good to hear. Now, I'm all the way on the other side of the country in New England. You're in Oregon, so I don't know a whole lot about your team. Tell me a little bit about who some of your main training partners are and how they've been pushing you so far.
Absolutely. So my main training partner is Adam Huguet, who has been a staple in MMA and Muay Thai on the in the Pacific Northwest for a little while now. Got a wrestling background, Muay Thai, national champion background. Some really impressive stuff, great accolades, multiple promotion for professional fight, belt holder. So he's got a couple titles across the different promotions. So, I think he's an absolutely amazing training partner and coach. And he's definitely helped me develop since I've gotten here to Art of War, along with, Jason Georgiana, who's the mind behind the operation of Art of War, head coach and my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor as well, under the 10th Planet system. And, and some of the other guys that I train with, they come in and they help out. They're not necessarily fighters, but, they deserve notable mentions because they help me get ready for most of my fights, these past couple of camps. I've been lucky to have some fresh bodies on me every round, running those Shark Tank rounds and being able to really push the cardio, having those extra guys. So.
It's great to hear. Sounds like you have a really good stable of fighters and people around you to help get you ready. Now, you're
Yeah.
2-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. You were also undefeated as an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your evolution as a fighter. Where do you think you've grown the most since you've really taken this to the next level and become a pro?
I would say I really have grown in my striking. Because that's where you have to get the most comfortable to really survive in MMA. Because you got to be able to blend. You can't be one-dimensional, and you can't solely rely on a skill set that requires you to get somebody to the ground or get somebody up on the fence. Because sometimes, the fight always starts out on the feet. So I figured that was the place to focus most of my attention. And it's paying. I can see it paying off now in the long run, being as that we are a pretty decorated striking school as well as a grappling school. But I've been taking this camp very seriously, so I doubled down on my pad sessions with my striking instructor. So I'm feeling extra prepared because of that. So.
That's awesome to hear. And as I mentioned earlier, the fight is the 16th, so it is right around the corner. Weight
2 weeks.
Is almost here. How much do you have to go?
I got about like 18 or so. I cut a little bit more weight than some other welterweights. But by all means, it's something that I'm used to and something that, through wrestling and through, this weight cut that I've gone through already, you know, the 6-7 times that I've done it for fighting now. Having that 24-hour period really makes that difference, you know, being able to rest and rehydrate and get ready. And I think that, you know, my refuel is always proper and very on point. You know, putting the best ingredients and the best fuels in my body for that next day. So I feel really good about it.
What's the heaviest you get outside of camp? I mean, after this fight, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So I got to imagine you're probably going to have a little fun, eat some food, maybe be a little merry. What's the heaviest you will get to?
You know, I can walk around in the upwards of like 215 if I'm letting myself go. Uh, but I try to keep that diet in check all year round because, you know, we want to be able to take those fights short notice, and we want to be able to step up to the plate when that comes to calling. So lately I've been trying to really keep my weight under like 190, and just try to keep that pace that we have, you know, for the past year and a half since I've got into this. I don't tend on slowing down, you know. I want to keep trudging along and keep knocking on doors until people let me in. So
It still blows my mind how much weight a lot of mixed martial artists cut. I used to train under former UFC welterweight Marcus Davis up here in the
hmm
area, and he would get as big as 220, 225 and cut down to 170 to make welterweight, and he's solid muscle. I would just look at him and be like, where do you lose the weight from? And it's all water weight, obviously, that he's getting off.
yeah.
Do you think that as you get older and weight cuts become a little bit harder, that you may go up in weight class, or do you feel like this weight class that you're at right now is where you want to stay for the unseen future?
I feel that is if I stay pretty diligent on the diet and I take care of my body, I think the weight cuts won't be as tough. I think it's that downtime in between fight camps that you have to really be careful and cautious, um, because your body does remember what you do to it, and it doesn't like, you know, being put in that stressful situation of being like, hey man, we just lost 25 pounds in the sauna. I don't know if I want to do that again. So we're gonna retain a little extra weight this next weight cut, and that really does happen. So you got to be careful with that. And you know, I've noticed a few times, you know, in some of my amateur fights coming up, you know, has been tough. You know, because that roller coaster of not knowing if you got to fight. You know, somebody pulls out, somebody gets injured, they got a replacement. So you know, you're stress eating and all that. You know, so it really does depend on the fight camp and all of that, but it's not as stressful as it needs to be, as some make it out to be.
Speaking of fight camps and weight cutting and whatnot, there's a huge event this weekend in Madison Square Garden. Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal. These guys are getting the last little bit of weight off now, and then the main event will be on Saturday night. I just got to get a prediction here. Who do you think is going to win that massive fight, and why?
Oh man, this is a massive fight, and it's kind of a fight of the OGs. You know, who's the baddest Mo effer. Um, but in my opinion, Nate is a really tough fighter, and Jorge's a tough fighter. But if it goes to the deeper rounds, you know, I would put money on Nate. But I really want Jorge to pull through because I'm from Florida. I've been watching Jorge since the good old days, back in those backyard fighting days when I would just be browsing YouTube looking for cool clips of dudes getting knocked out. You know, so I'm gonna have to go with the 305 on this one, the Jorge Masvidal Street Jesus.
Without giving me too many, I guess, personal details, before you got into MMA, were you in ever any street fights, or did you ever have to defend yourself, kind of a la Jorge Masvidal? I mean, that was kind of like an underground fight club where he would go and compete. But did you ever have to, use some of your skill set before you became a professional mixed martial artist?
Yeah, you know, I was a scrappy kid. I came from a neighborhood of other scrappy kids, and you know, a lot of time there were street beefs, or so call it, and you know, there was times where I had to self defend myself, you know, and one of the things that I always stress is I was never a bully, uh, but you know, my dad had told me a saying once. He said, you know, don't go looking for trouble because trouble will find you. So I always took that to heart, but there was always that time where, the guy was piping off at the right time, and you got yours. But for the most part, try to keep my nose clean.
Now, you are represented by Dodge Sports. I have nothing but the utmost respect for those guys. Everyone on that team does a phenomenal job. What can you say to young mixed martial artists that are really getting in and want to have a good career moving forward, to have the right management team around themselves like you do with Dodge Sports?
I think forward thinking is an important aspect of this game. A lot of guys try to not look past the fight that they have, or not try to bite off more than they can chew. But in my opinion, if you're serious about this sport and you want to make it a career, you've got to think about these things. You got to think about, okay, now, how long is the coach / gym that I'm with right now? Are they going to be able to find me fights until a certain point in your career? And then that's when you start looking for outside help and outside management and things like that, because those opportunities are going to find you. There's no need to rush them. Just like Dodge Sports found me. They're looking for guys, and they're gonna put guys on their teams and with their management squads that are showing that they're dedicated fighters, that they're professionals, they handle themselves like professionals, because that's what this sport is developing into. It's no longer just that brutal, like, sign your name on the line and get in the cage and fight a drunk guy from the crowd. It's we're one of the fastest growing sports in the world, so it's an amazing thing to see how all these guys are rising up, and new management agencies, and that's like the number one thing, is nobody wants to get taken advantage of. So you got to make sure you got the right guys in your corner that are going to take care of you, instead of like these really big name agencies that they want to take all this money from you, that they didn't help you build anything to get to that point, but they want the most. So I think that's a really important thing for those young fighters, is to just make sure you got the right people in your corner, and you're getting paid what you deserve, and you're giving the money that is deserved to those people that are helping you out.
Very well said. Now, you will be fighting again in Oregon, your home state of Oregon. I believe your opponent will be, he's from that state as well. So
yes,
it's kind of like a little back and forth between the crowd there, I got to imagine. How many tickets have you sold, and how much support are you expecting to have on fight night?
So I'm expecting to have a good bit of support. We are only an hour away from Eugene, but we're also only an hour away from where Simone lives. So the way I feel about it is, I'm actually not from Oregon. I'm from Florida. I was born in Florida. All my family is in Florida and in New York and stuff. So I've basically just been out here for 2 years kind of on my own, and have networked and met people and made some connections, and I've gotten to know some really awesome people out here, and I'm excited to have those people come watch me fight. I've got a couple of friends that actually live in Oregon that I went to college with that are coming out. So it should be a really good time. It should be fun. I think I've sold around like 25 to like 30 VIP tickets, and and a couple GA and some reserved and stuff like that. So, it always gets crazier next to fight week, because everyone's like, "Oh, your fight's this weekend? Oh, I need tickets." Yeah, they like to get at you last minute, but I'm gonna have them till the last minute, till weigh-ins. So step on the scale.
That's right, and that is right around the corner, as you said. Next weekend it goes down. So having said that, you being from Florida, in New York, having ties to the East Coast there, do you expect to be the heel going into this fight? Do you expect him to have more fans there in the audience cheering him on and booing you?
Absolutely, I hope so. I actually pray for it. The more adversity that I face, the greater the outcome for me is going to be. The less, it doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to go in there and get the job done, and put on for my school and for myself, and just display my skills. But it is a sweet sound of serenity to hear those boos, though. I'll tell you what.
I
won't be the first time.
That's right. I got to imagine it just pushes you to really get in there and get a finish, which you have done at every fight you've had as an amateur and a pro, which is very, very impressive. Your opponent, he does have a loss, and I was looking at his amateur record. He's got a couple losses there as well. What is it that he does best, and where do you feel like you're going to be able to capitalize on him and take advantage of your skill set?
So I think that he's a pretty good counter fighter. He likes to kind of move around, and from what I've seen, he wants to initiate some striking to grappling, maybe some low leg kicks. Nothing that a good check and some takedown defense can't solve. And I'm hoping that he really wants to come there and stand and bang, because I've been really waiting to test out my hands and find out who I am as a fighter. So, but if the game goes to the ground, we prepare for that. I wrestled in college. I have an absolute love for BJJ, so it's dangerous for him anywhere.
Is this the toughest fight of your career?
I would say the closest, the most recent fight is always your toughest fight of your career. It's always the most important, because you got to stay relevant, and everybody's only going to look at what you just did, not what you've done. So it's going to be, what taste do I want to leave in everybody's mouth at the end of the night? And I'm hoping it's the heathen.
Now, I'm sure you visualized how this fight finishes. How do you think it's going to finish?
I absolutely think that it's going to finish in the first round by a brutal KO or a brutal submission or a brutal ground and pound. Either one of those. Like I said, a fight will play out a lot of different ways. So I'm just looking to go in there and take them out in the first round, and however I got to do it, it's going to get done.
Well, I love the confidence, man. I wish I was out on the West Coast so I could be there to see this fight in person. What is next for you? What do you want to accomplish over the next fight or two? Do you envision yourself fighting maybe for like an LFA? That's a huge promotion out on the West Coast. Or are you thinking Bellator, UFC, Contender Series? Where's your head at?
Well, I'd love any opportunity that came a knocking, because I'm open to it all, and I want to build my name up, and I want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that is going to help the longevity of my career. I know a lot of guys rush. I'm in no rush, and I'm going to listen to my coaches and my management and try to make sure that we're taking the right steps in developing my career as a fighter, and not just trying to be a rising star and trying to take advantage of the chatter and take advantage of trying to make a bunch of money. I'm in this to be a martial artist. So I want to make sure that, I deserve to be in the cage with, the guys, these next promotions that we get into, and the guys that we're going to scrap, So I'm excited. We'll see what opportunities become available. That's for sure.
Another great answer. You're very seasoned at these interviewing things. So very good job, my friend.
Yeah, right. Oh, man, all through school, when I was in high school and in college, my coaches have always pushed me to do interviews and stuff like that. So it's a comfort zone for sure.
Well, you're doing very well. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on the show for the first time. Hope you go in there, stay undefeated, get the W next weekend. Before I do let you go, any sponsors you have or anyone you want to thank? The floor is yours.
Absolutely. I want to thank Dodge Sports, Joel Torres. I got to thank, my coaches and my training partners for helping me get ready for this fight. And then most of all, the guys that really get me through my month to month, my week to week, my day to day. Brad Chevrolet in Cottage Grove. Brad's an amazing guy. He does so much for Art of War. And if you're looking to get a car in Cottage Grove or in the Oregon, Eugene area, that's where you need to go. And then I got to shout out Curtis over at Evergreen Roofing. They take really good care of me. And they do great jobs on all of your roofing and gutter needs. And then obviously I got to shout out Living Love Superfoods, who keeps me absolutely fueled with their protein and their superfood blend that they have that helps me get through all these workouts and everything. But besides that, man, it's been a pleasure being on the show, and I really appreciate all the love.
Hey, the pleasure is mine. Again, best of luck. Get that W, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. You have a great day, man.